She called my love annoying, then used every word I once wrote to beg me back. I discovered that my girlfriend had been laughing at me on the night of our 9th anniversary. Claire Bennett was in the shower when her phone lit up on the bedside table. I had never made a habit of checking her messages. In fact, Claire had spent 9 years teaching me that privacy was sacred. She kept her phone face down during dinner. She changed her password every few months. Whenever I borrowed it to search for directions or call a taxi, she watched me as though I were holding a confidential government file. 2 weeks earlier, I had crossed one of her boundaries. We had argued because she cancelled another date without warning. I became emotional, raised my voice and accused her of caring more about work than our relationship. Claire removed me from every messaging app before midnight, terrified that 9 years together had ended over one argument. I sent her a long apology by text. I admitted everything I had done wrong. I told her I was afraid. I told her that after losing my father and being rejected by my mother, Claire had become the only person I truly considered family. I begged her not to disappear without speaking to me. She eventually forgave me, or at least I thought she had. That night, while the shower ran behind the closed bathroom door, her phone displayed a message from Adrian Cole. Your boyfriend writes like a 12-year-old, begging his first crush not to leave. A screenshot appeared beneath the message. It was my apology. Every frightened sentence, every private confession, every humiliating word I had written at 2 in the morning because I believed the woman I loved was about to abandon me. Claire had sent it to him. Adrian followed it with a laughing emoji. Seriously, Claire, he said he'd learn how to love you better. Who talks like that as an adult? Her reply appeared underneath. I know, he can be incredibly annoying. I read the sentence again, then once more. The words remained exactly where they were. They did not soften. They did not rearrange themselves into something less cruel. He can be incredibly annoying. 9 years of love had been reduced to entertainment for a man she claimed was only a colleague. Behind me, the shower stopped. My hands began to tremble. Claire opened the bathroom door wearing a white robe, her wet dark hair resting against her shoulders. She saw the phone in my hand. Her expression changed immediately. Not guilt, anger. Ethan, why are you holding my phone? I looked at her. You sent him my apology. She walked toward me. Give it back. You sent Adrian the message I wrote when I thought I was losing you, Ethan. And then you both laughed at me. This is exactly why I don't let you touch my phone. For a moment, I wondered whether I had misheard her. You're angry because I saw it. You invaded my privacy. You humiliated me. I was frustrated. So you sent my private messages to another man. It was one screenshot. It was the most vulnerable thing I had ever written to you. Claire folded her arms. Her face had already settled into the cool, detached expression she used whenever my emotions became inconvenient. You need to calm down. Did you tell him about my father too? She looked away. The movement was small. It answered everything. A cold sensation moved through my chest. Claire, I don't remember every conversation Adrian and I have had. You told him he was going through problems with his girlfriend. We discussed relationships. You discussed my childhood with him. He shared personal things too. My pain was not yours to trade for intimacy. You're making this sound worse than it was. Did he laugh about that as well? Ethan, stop. Did he? Her voice rose. Yes, he made a few insensitive jokes. I told him not to. I scrolled upward. There was no message where she told him to stop. Instead, I found photographs, coffee cups placed side by side, late night meals in the office, a gift box I recognized from Adrian's social media, and beneath it a poem. The same poem I had written inside the final love letter that convinced Claire to become my girlfriend when we were 17. I had spent an entire night copying those lines by hand because Claire loved poetry, but pretended she did not believe in romance. Now she had given the same words to him. I lifted the phone. "Did you write this for Adrian?" Claire's face became pale. It was a reference. A reference to what? A private joke. It was our poem. "It is not legally ours." I laughed. The sound frightened even me. 9 years. Claire, don't turn this into a performance. A performance. You're becoming dramatic again. The word struck with the precision of a blade, not because she shouted it, because she said it calmly, as though my pain were merely another unpleasant task waiting on her schedule. I placed the phone on the bed. That afternoon, I had given Claire a new laptop, because her old one could barely run the engineering software she needed for work. I had saved 4 months. When she opened it, I told her that our lives were finally becoming more stable. I told her we would soon be able to buy a flat. I almost proposed. Instead, I waited for her surprise. She gave me a compact camera, because I had once mentioned wanting to learn photography. It was thoughtful, expensive, beautiful, but when she asked me to close my eyes, my heart had raced because I thought she might finally say the words we had avoided for years. Let's get married. Let's choose a date. Let's stop speaking about the future as though it belonged to strangers. Instead, she gave me a camera. Now I understood the jealousy I had seen in her eyes during dinner. Adrian had posted that his longtime girlfriend, Madeline Shaw, was considering marriage. Claire had not been angry with me. She had been jealous of them. "You love him," I said. "No. You gave him our poem. It meant nothing. You shared our private messages. That was a mistake. You spend more time with him than you spend with me. We work together. You let him answer your phone. I was in a meeting. You cancelled the theatre because of him. Because of work, you promised you would stop contacting him outside work. We bought coffee. You lied." Claire closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked tired, rather than ashamed. "Ethan, we have been together since high school. We have built a life. Do you genuinely believe I would throw that away for a colleague?" "I don't know what to believe. That is your problem." "No," I shook my head. "That became our problem the moment you started lying." She stared at me for several seconds. Then she picked up her phone. "I'm sleeping in the other room. Claire, I cannot have this conversation while you're behaving irrationally." She walked away. The bedroom door closed behind her. I remained beside the camera she had bought me, surrounded by the remains of an anniversary I had planned for months. For 9 years, I had believed Claire's silence meant stability, that her reserved nature was simply the way she loved. Now I wondered whether I had confused emotional distance with devotion, because the alternative was too painful to face. I met Claire when we were 16. She sat at the back of our literature class in Manchester, rarely speaking unless a teacher asked her a direct question. Her parents had recently divorced. Neither wanted full responsibility for her. Her father moved to France with his new wife. Her mother rented a smaller flat and told Claire there was no room for a difficult teenager who refused to accept the new family. Claire began spending evenings in the school library because she did not know where else to go. I was lonely too. My father was ill. My mother had already started building a new life with the man she would later marry. I wrote Claire letters, terrible ones at first, overly dramatic, filled with borrowed poetry and declarations no sensible 16-year-old should have trusted. She ignored the first 5, returned the 6th, kept the 7th. By the time I gave her the final letter, I had copied an entire poem into the margins and written beneath it, "I don't know how to promise forever when we are still children, but I can promise that while I am beside you, you will never have to wonder whether someone wants you there." Claire read it after school. Then she looked at me across the empty classroom. "You truly want to date me this badly?" "Yes. You talk too much. I know. You're emotional. I know. You'll probably annoy me." Almost certainly, for the first time, she smiled. Fine. She held out her hand. Hello, boyfriend. That moment became the foundation of my adult life. When my father died, Claire found me walking through a summer storm without a coat. My mother had told me that her new husband did not want me living in their home after graduation. I had nowhere to go. Claire brought me to the tiny room she was renting, above a laundrette. She made instant soup, wrapped me in an old blanket, then sat beside me until sunrise. She did not say she loved me. She rarely did. Instead, she said, "Don't be afraid. I'll be here." I built an entire future around that sentence. Claire changed her university plans and moved to London with me. We studied during the day and worked evenings. We shared cheap hotel rooms when neither of our rented flats had heating. We ate noodles for weeks while saving for professional exams. When we were exhausted, we lay beside each other and imagined the life we would have after the difficult years ended. A quiet flat, a kitchen large enough for 2 people, a trip to see the northern lights, marriage, children, perhaps, safety. I thought surviving hardship together meant we could survive anything. I did not understand that 2 people can share the same difficult road while dreaming of different destinations. Adrian entered Claire's life during university. He was charming in the careless way that only people loved easily can afford to be. He came from a modest family, wrote music in his spare time and treated every room as though it existed for his amusement. By then, he was already dating Madeline Shaw. Madeline was brilliant, disciplined, and several years older. She later founded the technology company where Adrian and Claire worked. According to Claire, Adrian was only a university friend, then only a colleague, then only a project partner. Every suspicious detail had an explanation. The night he answered Claire's phone, she claimed she had left it on a conference table. The evening I found them returning from coffee. She said they were discussing a client presentation. When I asked why she looked happier walking beside him than she ever looked walking beside me, she accused me of creating problems because I was insecure. Adrian has a girlfriend, she said. That doesn't mean he has boundaries. Madeline knows we work together. I'm not asking about Madeline. Claire sighed. We have been together for 9 years. A person gets only so many 9-year relationships in one lifetime. That isn't an answer. It should be. She stepped closer and rested her hands against my chest. Don't let imaginary problems destroy something real. I wanted to believe her. More accurately, I needed to believe her. Claire had become proof that I was not as unlovable as my mother had always made me feel. If Claire could betray me, then the safest relationship of my life had never been safe. So I ignored the distance, the deleted messages, the way Adrian smirked whenever he saw me. I accepted every explanation because doubt threatened more than my relationship. It threatened the story I had used to survive. In December, Claire's company won an important international contract. Madeline organized a training retreat in Tromsø, Norway. Employees were allowed to bring partners because the program ended just before New Year's Eve. Claire told me about it while packing. You've always wanted to see the northern lights. I stared at her. Are you asking me to come? If you'd like. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. I already had a passport. I had secretly saved enough money for a proposal ring. Perhaps Norway could become a new beginning. Then, the day before our flight, my mother called. Her voice sounded weak. Ethan, I'm ill. What happened? The doctors are worried. Which hospital? I'm at home. Why aren't you in hospital? Your stepfather is arranging everything. I may not have another chance to see you. Despite everything between us, I went. Some part of me was still the abandoned boy who believed that if I tried hard enough, my mother might eventually choose him. Claire stood beside our packed suitcases while I ended the call. I need to go to Birmingham. All right, I waited. She said nothing else. You could come with me. The company already paid for the trip. My mother may be seriously ill, and you should see her. We could both go. Claire's expression became distant. I am responsible for the Norwegian presentation. Madeline could manage it. Why should I damage my career because your mother called unexpectedly? The words hurt because they were practical. Claire was always most convincing when cruelty could be disguised as logic. I thought we were family. We are? Then come with me. I can't. She zipped her suitcase. I'll take photographs for you. At the station, she sent a message. About to board. It's a shame you can't come. I replied, take lots of pictures. We'll go together another year. I still believed there would be another year. When I reached my mother's house, she was not ill. She was hosting dinner. Her husband's business partner sat at the table with his daughter, a woman my mother had decided would make a more respectable match than Claire. I brought you home because you refused to think about your future, she said. You lied about dying. I said the doctors were concerned. You are not even sick. You would not have come otherwise. I picked up my bag. She blocked the door. Claire's kept you waiting for 9 years. When will you accept that she doesn't intend to marry you? This is none of your business. I'm your mother. You remember that only when you want something. Her face hardened. After everything I've sacrificed, what have you sacrificed for me? She slapped me. The room became silent. My cheek burned. Her husband looked away. The woman I was supposed to meet stared at her plate. My mother pointed toward the door. If you refuse to listen, leave. Don't return when that girl finally humiliates you. I touched the inside of my mouth and tasted blood. Then I looked at her. If children could choose, I would never have chosen you either. She threw my suitcase into the rain. I walked for nearly an hour before reaching a station. I called Claire repeatedly. She did not answer. I tried again after midnight. Nothing. Then a message arrived from an unknown number. You should probably know what your girlfriend is doing. A photograph followed. The sky above Tromsø glowed, green and violet. Beneath the aurora, surrounded by snow and darkness, Claire was kissing Adrian. Not a drunken accidental touch. Not a moment anyone could explain away. Her arms were round his neck. His hands rested on her waist. Behind them stood the landscape Claire and I had imagined for nearly a decade. She had finally reached our dream. She had simply replaced me inside it. My phone fell onto the wet pavement. A train passed somewhere nearby. The sound shook through the night, but I heard almost nothing. My mother had rejected me hours earlier. Now the woman I considered my only family was kissing someone else beneath the sky she had promised to see with me. I had loved Claire as though she were a lifeboat. That night, I finally understood she had been another storm. The unknown sender was Madeline Shaw, Adrian's girlfriend, Claire's employer. She sent me copies of hotel reservations, deleted workplace messages and photographs collected over several months. Claire had been fascinated by Adrian since university. She followed him into Madeline's company after graduation. Whenever Adrian and Madeline argued, he turned to Claire for attention. Whenever Madeline considered ending the relationship, he returned with apologies and promises. Claire knew she was not his first choice. She accepted the position anyway. Madeline wrote, I wanted to believe Claire respected your relationship because she constantly talked about how much she loved you. She said she was working for a promotion so the two of you could buy a home and marry. I now realize she used your relationship to make herself appear harmless. Another message followed. The project ends tomorrow. I am dismissing her. Take her away before I do something professionally unwise. I stared at the sentence, then typed, I don't want her either. I boarded the next flight to Norway, not because I wanted to save the relationship, not even because I wanted an explanation. I needed to look at Claire without the protection of distance and tell her she could no longer return to the life she had treated as guaranteed. When I reached her hotel, Adrian opened the door. He leaned against the frame as though he had been expecting entertainment. "Well," he said, smiling. "The devoted boyfriend travelled all this way." Claire stood behind him. Her face went white when she saw me. "Ethan." Adrian glanced at the bruise on my cheek. "Rough journey." I looked past him. Two wine glasses stood on the table. Claire's coat lay across the bed. She took one step forward. "Let me explain." Adrian laughed. "She always says that." "Shut up," Claire snapped. His eyebrows lifted. "You came to my room." Claire turned to him. "You said Madeline had ended things." "She did, you said." "I said many things." He looked at me again. "Your girlfriend is extremely loyal when she's frightened. The problem is that she becomes adventurous whenever she feels safe." "Adrian, stop." He ignored her. "She's been chasing me for years." Claire looked at him as though he had betrayed her. Perhaps that was the moment she finally understood what I had felt. Adrian continued. "She talks about marrying you. Constantly." I could barely speak. "Then why did she kiss you?" "Because marriage is stability." He smiled. "I'm excitement." Claire raised her hand as though she might strike him, but stopped. Adrian leaned closer to me. "Don't look so devastated. She never planned to leave you permanently." The sentence was meant to comfort me. Instead, it revealed the ugliest part of the truth. Claire had expected to betray me and return. She did not believe I was a person capable of leaving. I was simply the familiar home waiting after her. Adventure ended. Madeline appeared at the end of the corridor. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes were red. "Adrian, your access to the company has been terminated." His smile disappeared. "You cannot do that. I founded the company." "You're acting emotionally." "No." Madeline handed him an envelope. "I am finally acting clearly." Then she looked at Claire. "Submit your resignation before noon. You will receive the compensation required by your contract." Claire stared at her. "You're dismissing me over a personal matter." "I'm dismissing you because you shared confidential project information with Adrian after he was removed from the account." Claire became pale. "I didn't know he had been removed." "You did." Madeline's gaze moved to me. "I'm sorry, you didn't owe me loyalty." "No." She looked at Adrian. "But I owed it to myself." Adrian scoffed. "Wonderful. Now the two rejected partners can comfort each other." I looked at him for the first time without fear. "You believe every woman who loves you is proof that you are valuable." His smile tightened. "But all you have proved is that you require people to betray themselves before you feel chosen." He stepped closer. "At least women choose me, do they?" I glanced toward Madeline. "Then Claire, one has just left you. The other will spend the rest of her life knowing you never intended to choose her." Adrian's face changed. Claire whispered my name. I turned toward her. "Don't come closer." She stopped. Snow moved past the windows behind her. 4 years, I had protected Claire's deepest wound. When her parents separated, both had treated her like an inconvenience. She had spent her life fearing that everyone would eventually choose someone else. I never mentioned it during arguments, never used it to win, but she had handed my wounds to Adrian and allowed him to laugh. So I stopped protecting her from the truth. "You know what is remarkable," I said. "You spent your entire life terrified of being discarded." Her eyes filled. "And the moment someone loved you without conditions, you treated him exactly the way your parents treated you." "Ethan, please." "You called me annoying because I asked you not to leave." I was angry. "You sent him my messages." "I'm sorry." "You gave him the poem that began our relationship." "It didn't mean the same thing." "You kissed him inside the dream we built together." I was confused. "No." My voice remained calm. "You were certain I would still be waiting." Claire covered her mouth. "I never wanted a future with him. That does not help. I wanted to marry you." "Then why did you betray me?" She looked toward the floor. After a long silence, she said, "Because everything between us had become ordinary." Adrian shifted behind her. Claire continued as though the words might save her if she delivered them honestly enough. "We met too young. We stayed together through university, work, and everything after. Every day began to feel the same. So you needed excitement. I thought I did. And now I know what matters. I almost smiled. You know, because I'm leaving. Ethan, you did not suddenly rediscover love. You were simply experiencing something unfamiliar. What? Consequences. She began crying. I had seen Claire cry only twice in 9 years. Once when her father failed to attend her graduation. Once when she thought I might die after a traffic accident. Before that night, her tears would have destroyed every defense I had. Now they felt like rain striking a window after I had already moved indoors. I made a mistake, she whispered. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. I know. A mistake is saying something cruel during an argument. I know. You lied 4 years. She shook her head. Nothing physical happened before last night. You expect me to reward you because the emotional betrayal lasted longer than the physical one. It was one kiss. It was 9 years of deception, ending in one photograph. Claire reached for me. I stepped back. She stopped as though an invisible wall had risen between us. I can fix this. No. I will leave the company. You've already been dismissed. I will block Adrian. He no longer wants you. Her face crumpled. That isn't why. It is part of why. No. She shook her head desperately. I don't care whether he wants me. You cared yesterday. I was stupid. You were comfortable. I love you. You loved knowing I would always forgive you. That isn't true. Then accept my decision. The silence that followed was almost gentle. I looked at the woman I had loved since I was 16. Her eyes, her hands, the small scar near her eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident. Every familiar detail remained. But love had once made those ordinary features sacred. Without trust, they belonged to a stranger. We're finished. Claire, she stared at me. No, yes. You cannot end 9 years in a hotel corridor. You ended them under the northern lights. She followed me toward the lift. Ethan, please. I pressed the button. We can go home and talk. I am going home alone. You don't mean that. The doors opened. I stepped inside. Claire reached toward me. Don't leave me. For 9 years. Those words had come from me. This time, I looked directly at her. You told Adrian that people who beg are annoying. The doors began closing. So try not to become one. Claire did not accept the breakup. At first, she behaved as though I simply needed time. She sent careful messages. I arrived safely. I know you're angry. We should speak after you rest. Then the messages became longer. She apologized for mocking me, for giving Adrian our poem, for lying about the coffee meetings, for allowing her boredom to become betrayal. I blocked her number. She contacted me from another, then another. She sent emails, letters, voice messages. One evening, she copied the same poem I had written for her at 17 and left it outside my flat. I placed it unopened in the recycling bin. On my birthday, Claire waited beneath my building, holding a large cake. Rain fell heavily across London. She had been standing there long enough for her coat to become soaked. Happy birthday, she said when I approached. I kept walking. Ethan. I stopped. She held out the cake. You once told me every birthday deserves one. Even if the cake is small. I've already celebrated. With Madeline. I looked at her. Claire immediately regretted the question. I didn't mean. You no longer have the right to ask. I know you hate me. I don't hate you. Hope flickered across her face. I continued. Hating you would require more energy than I intend to spend. Her hands shook around the box. Please take the cake. No. Then let me speak for 5 minutes. No. You used to wait for me 4 hours, and you taught me that was foolish. I walked inside. From my balcony, I saw her, standing beneath the street lamp long after midnight. Years earlier, I would have rushed downstairs with a blanket. I would have begged her to come inside. Instead, I contacted the building concierge and asked him to tell her she needed to leave the property safely. Her decision to remain in the cold was not a romantic sacrifice. It was another attempt to force my compassion into reopening a relationship I had ended clearly. The following Monday, I encountered Claire at a hospital where my company had arranged annual health examinations. She had developed a fever after standing in the rain. An intravenous line was attached to her arm. The moment she saw me, she pulled the line loose and followed me into the corridor. Ethan, several people turned toward us. I stopped near a window. You need to return to your room. I only need 1 minute. You are ill. I stood there because I wanted to understand. Understand what? The night you came to me in. The storm after your father died. Her voice broke. I remember looking at you and thinking I would protect you for the rest of my life. You forgot. Yes. Blood appeared where she had removed the line. I pressed the call button for a nurse. Claire stepped closer. Can we begin again? No. I'll court you properly. No. I'll write letters. You mocked mine. I will prove I understand. You understand that you lost me. I understand that I love you. You knew I loved you for 9 years. A nurse approached. Claire's face became desperate. I had nothing before you. That was true for both of us. You were my home. No. I looked at her calmly. I was the person you assumed would remain available while you searched for something more exciting. Her knees weakened. The nurse caught her before she fell and called for assistance. I waited long enough to confirm that medical staff had taken responsibility. Then I left. 3 months earlier, I would have spent the entire night beside her bed. That afternoon, I returned to work, not because I wanted Claire to suffer, because compassion did not require me to surrender my boundaries. Her illness was real. So was the end of our relationship. After recovering, Claire continued writing. Pages of apologies arrived at my office. She wrote about our first classroom, the laundrette, the cheap hotel rooms, the future we had planned. She changed phone numbers and sent messages from unfamiliar accounts. Eventually, I waited outside my office building and confronted her. Stop contacting me. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I don't know what else to do. Accept my answer. I can't. You expected me to accept yours every time you ignored me. That was different. Why? Because I didn't understand how much it hurt. Pain does not become legitimate only when you experience it. She held a bundle of handwritten pages against her chest. I wrote everything I couldn't say before. I looked at the letters. 9 years earlier, I would have considered them priceless. Now they seemed like evidence arriving after the trial had ended. You and those essays are becoming incredibly annoying. Claire froze. The sentence returned to her exactly as she had once used it against me. I did not say it with satisfaction. There was no victory in becoming fluent in someone else's cruelty. But she finally understood. Her face collapsed. You saw that message. Yes, I'm sorry. You were not sorry when Adrian laughed. I was trying to impress him. I know. I was ashamed of how much I needed you. So you humiliated me to feel less dependent. Yes. Thank you for finally being honest. Hope entered her expression. Does that mean no? I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. I cannot forgive what you did, because you did not only betray my love. She began crying. You betrayed my trust. I know. When my father died, I told you things I had never told another person. I know. You gave those memories to Adrian, so he could use them against me. I hated myself afterward, but you continued seeing him. Yes, you did not stop because hurting me was never enough to outweigh the attention he gave you. Claire lowered her head. There was nothing left to argue. I'm moving, I said. Her head snapped upward. Where? That is no longer your concern. You're leaving London. Yes. Because of me. No. The answer surprised her. I am leaving because I want a life that is not organized around recovering from you. She stood motionless as I walked away. That was the last time I saw her for several years. Madeline occasionally sent updates. Adrian tried to reconcile with her after Claire became inconvenient. Madeline refused. without access to her company. His career stalled. He blamed Claire for destroying his relationship and accused her of becoming obsessive. Claire finally learned what it felt like to be treated as temporary excitement. Her own career suffered too. Madeline had dismissed her for leaking confidential information, not for the affair. Several months later, Claire joined another firm, but made a serious error in a proposal. The company lost an important account. The incident spread through a small professional industry, damaging her reputation. I did not celebrate, but I would be lying if I claimed I felt nothing. For a while, knowing that Claire had finally encountered consequences brought a dark kind of satisfaction. Madeline noticed, "You're allowed to be angry," she told me over dinner. "I don't want to become bitter. Being unwilling to forgive is not the same as bitterness." I spent years believing good people forgive everything. People who forgive everything often teach others that there is no cost for hurting them. I studied her. "You sound experienced." Madeline smiled without humor. "Adrian cheated repeatedly. I forgave him because he stayed beside me when I had nothing. So did Claire. Perhaps we didn't love them. What did we love? The history." Her answer remained with me. History can feel like destiny when you are afraid of beginning again. Madeline and I never became lovers. For a short time, we were simply two people, clearing the ruins left by the same betrayal. She once asked what might have happened if we had met first. I considered the question, then told her I had accepted a position in Amsterdam. She laughed softly. "Are you escaping me?" "No, good. I would hate to believe I had that much influence. I need a place where every street does not contain an old version of my life." Madeline raised her glass. "To leaving before regret becomes another prison." We drank to that. My mother called when she learned Claire and I had separated. "I warned you," she said. I almost ended the call immediately. Then she added, "Come home. I'll arrange another introduction." "I'm not coming home. You're 30. How long do you intend to behave like a wounded child?" "As long as it takes to stop becoming one." "Whenever I hear your voice." She became furious. After everything she had done, after raising me, after sacrificing her youth, the familiar accusations arrived one after another. For the first time, I did not defend myself. "Mother," I interrupted. She stopped. "You did not love me from the beginning. How dare you? You should not have had me merely to punish me for needing you. You ungrateful." I ended the call, then blocked her number. Leaving Claire forced me to confront a painful truth. She had not created my fear of abandonment. She had simply benefited from it. My mother taught me that love had to be earned through obedience. Claire taught me that love could be maintained through endless forgiveness. Both relied on the same belief, that I would accept anything rather than be alone. Moving to Amsterdam was the first decision I made, without asking whether someone else would approve. 5 years later, I became a regional director at my company. I was 34. I owned a bright apartment overlooking a canal. I traveled when I wanted. I finally saw the northern lights again, this time during a photography expedition in Iceland. The first time I raised my camera beneath the glowing sky, I remembered Claire, but the memory no longer felt like a wound. It was simply evidence that I had survived a version of myself who believed one person's betrayal could end his entire future. In spring, an anonymous envelope arrived at my office. Inside was a handwritten copy of the poem I had given Claire in high school. The paper smelled faintly of the perfume she used to wear. Beneath the final line, she had written, "I understand now. You were never annoying. You were loving me in the only language you knew. And I punished you because I was afraid of how much it mattered." There was no request, no phone number, no demand for an answer. Perhaps Claire had finally learned that an apology is not a key. Sometimes it is simply an acknowledgement placed outside a door that will never open again. I read the letter once, then tore it in half and placed it in the bin. Not because I hated her, because the 16-year-old boy who needed that Poem to prove he deserved love no longer controlled my life. Claire had once been extraordinary to me. Later, I understood she had always been an ordinary person capable of kindness, selfishness, loyalty and betrayal. My love had placed light around her. When that love disappeared, she did not become worthless. She simply stopped being special to me. That was the consequence she had never imagined. She believed my love was part of her identity, a permanent resource, something she could neglect, mock and betray without losing access to it. When I was beside her, my devotion felt repetitive, predictable, annoying. When I left, the same devotion became the most precious thing she had ever lost. But being appreciated after withdrawal is not the same as being loved well while present. People often miss what you gave them. That does not mean they are entitled to receive it again. Claire later married no one, at least not during the years when Madeline and I remained in occasional contact. She rebuilt her career slowly, attended therapy, stopped contacting me. Eventually, she volunteered with an organization that supported young adults from unstable homes. Perhaps she changed. I hope she did. Growth does not require reconciliation. A person can become better and still remain outside the life of someone they harmed. I also changed. I learned that boundaries are not punishments, that forgiveness does not require restored access, that remaining beside someone 4 years does not prove they are meant to remain forever, and that love should never require one person to become smaller so the other can feel free. Years after leaving London, I met a woman named Sophie at a photography exhibition. Our relationship began slowly. There were no dramatic declarations, no desperate letters, no promises that she would become my entire world. When she was upset, she spoke. When I was anxious, she did not call me annoying. When someone else attracted her attention, she did not hide behind technical definitions of loyalty. One evening, my phone displayed an unfamiliar number while we were cooking. My body tensed automatically. Sophie noticed. You don't have to answer. It may be important. Then answer. I'm not going anywhere. The sentence was simple. It was also the first time I understood how different safety felt when it was not tied to fear. Claire once told me she would always be beside me. Then she spent years proving that words could coexist with abandonment. Sophie made no promises about forever. She simply remained honest in the present. That was enough. For 9 years, I believed loving Claire meant forgiving every cold reply, every cancelled plan, and every boundary she crossed. I thought my patience proved commitment. In reality, I had confused endurance with intimacy. Claire did not betray me because I talked too much. She did not betray me because our relationship became ordinary. She did not betray me because Adrian was irresistible. She betrayed me because she believed I would stay. My loyalty removed the risk from her choices. She wanted Adrian's excitement without surrendering my stability. She wanted to experiment with losing me while remaining confident that I could be recovered. Afterward, when I finally left, she discovered that people are not houses you can abandon and re-enter whenever the weather changes. She called my apologies annoying, then wrote hundreds of her own. She mocked me for begging, then stood outside my home begging for a reply. She dismissed my fear of losing her, then built her entire life around the hope that I might return. But love is not justice when the roles reverse. Her suffering did not heal mine. Her regret did not restore trust. Her loneliness did not create an obligation for me to rescue her. Sometimes the most merciful ending is not reunion. It is allowing both people to live with what their choices created. Claire wanted forgiveness because she finally understood my value. I refused because I had finally understood my own. What would you have done in Ethan's position? Would you have forgiven Claire after 9 years together, or walked away the moment you discovered she had shared your private messages and kissed another man? Share your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy emotional stories about betrayal, regret, self-respect and second chances. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. This story is entirely fictional and created for entertainment purposes. It does not encourage harassment, retaliation, stalking, or humiliating former partners. Betrayal can cause serious emotional distress, and anyone struggling after a breakup should seek support from trusted people or a qualified professional.